We've done risk management 1. Now this is risk management 2 for salespeople. This can be taken by brokers this year. Last time they didn't have enough people the last couple of cycles to put together broker classes. So they said, well, the brokers can take this one as well. So if y'all got a broker's license, you're good with this one. I thought we would start out doing a little something different this time. Instead of jumping right into material, we'll play a little game first. And just, because everybody likes games. Everybody likes Jeopardy. So I'll be Alex Trebek with a monkey on my back. And this monkey, you see all the different things there that you got to deal with, the law, license law, federal, state, all that. You just don't want to get tangled up. If I can find his tail. That is tail.
That's a leg.
See it?
Tail.
There we go.
No, right there. Yeah.
See underneath there?
You got it.
That's what you don't want to get. You don't want to get in there.
Right.
Lawsuits. Don't want to go there. We want to stay out of court. And when you go to court, no one wins except the attorney. No matter how good a case you've got, your checkbook is going to bleed. Because attorneys use a shotgun. They boom, and it hit whoever they can hit. And if you were part of the deal, then you're going to go there too. But we're going to play a little game this morning first, instead of jumping into the material. Unless y'all just want to do the material first and skip the game. No?
Now, come on, Alex.
We'll see.
Yeah, I've already teased you with the game. The Real Estate Commission actually wrote this and sent it to us, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And the laws haven't changed since then. When y'all got your license, the laws were the same as they are now. I think the only thing that has changed in the last 10 years is on your advertising. Used to, your name had to be smaller or the same size as the brokerage name. Now the brokerage name just has to be prominent on the advertising. Doesn't have to be bigger, smaller, just as long as you can read it. That's about the only thing that's changed. So we're going to play a little game here. It's Jeopardy. Everybody knows how to play Jeopardy. It's the fined and the suspended and the revoked. Because they can do all those things to you. They can hit you with some fines. We'll see what those fines are. Today's topics. The auditor dropped in. Oh, that's never a good thing. The education department auditor dropped in about a month ago. And Werner said, you never know where they're coming. She just came in and, hey, and sat down and started taking notes. Meet an investigator. Come see the commissioners. Something else you don't want to do. Featured in the newsletter. We're going to get the newsletter out in just a minute and look at it as well. Find a new line of work. Oh, we just worked all the way through that process. Now we don't have a license. So, where do y'all want to start?
I'll take featured in the newsletter for 5, please.
Featured in the newsletter. Right.
Always. Whoever.
Is
I
it
think
bad
check, I think it's
Is it
Well, the always is your key word here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can find you anything, y'all remember,
From 250 up to.
from 100 all the way to 2,500. We're going to do some case studies here in a minute, and we're going to see that they find a lot of them. Normally it is $250 for a bad check, but sometimes they'll pop you for $500.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's the first thing I learned in real estate. When Evie Balch, she was teaching us, she said, don't mail a check to them.
That's
I
one of the
don't
laws.
either.
Do
I send
not
a
do
money
that.
order or a cashier's
Yep.
check.
Now you can do it online. And there's no, it can be anywhere from 100 to 2,500. All right, give me another one.
Meet the investigator for 20, please.
Meet an investigator for 20. Ooh, going for the big money.
Telling
Big
you.
question.
Mr. Charles Kelly.
She's gonna have to go meet the commissioner.
Yeah, she probably will.
Yeah.
She'll probably have to give him a letter. and make sure everything.
Just mail her license on back, cause.
Yeah, because the
document.
transaction was confidential against the commission investigator.
The commission can look at anything
Anything
they
they
wanna
want
look
to,
at. They don't look at your operating account, but in this case, should have been an escrow money. And she said, well, I don't want you looking at it. No, let's see what their answer is. Yeah, don't go visit now if you're sick, go and get a visit from the commission. And inform her if she's not forthcoming, because they're gonna ask you. And if you won't play games with them, then they'll insist.
But how can she declare a portion or any part
She
of
can't.
that as being confidential?
That's it. Not from the real estate commission, you can't.
No.
That's just like the police pull you over and you say, I just don't want you to see my license. Well, we got ways to deal with people like you.
You watch that on Cops and they stand there, they'll ask for their licenses. No.
I don't have one.
And I'm thinking, are you just ready to go to jail? You fix to get knocked upside the head, handcuffed and all
How
that.
about another number?
I don't know his name, but here he is. Let's do the investigator for 25.
Ooh, going for big money.
Might as well, heck.
As long as she discloses it.
Yeah, she has that as an
Yeah.
option.
There y'all, yeah, good, good. It hasn't been that long since y'all did license law. She must disclose that she's an agent. As long as you can advertise as if for sale by owner, but and you're advertising, you say, I'm a licensed agent. All right, what we got?
Commissioner for 5.
Commissioners for 5. This ought to be easy one for 5. Oh,
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, there's a big problem.
Stop it, Amy.
There's a big problem.
Yeah.
I actually was at a commission meeting about a year ago where this happened.
Wow.
She told the buyer, said, I need an earnest money check made out to the company for $1,000, and I need administrative fee made out to me for $500. And the person wrote the checks and then got to talking to people. And others said, that ain't right. And so they called the commission and they said, that ain't right.
Wow.
And next thing you knew, she was sitting in front of the commissioners. Had she, worked it out and given the people their $500 back, she probably would have skated around this. But she said, no, I've already spent the money. And now they pulled her license. They said, you can't do this business.
Wow.
And let's see, our answer is, yep, and lost the license.
Revoked.
Yeah, it took a long time to get it too.
And lost it just like that.
How about another?
Not a good category, find a new line of work.
Okay, 15.
They're probably gonna take his license away.
That's the first thing they do. They revoke your license if they have to pay out of the recovery fund. Let's see if it tells.
Would they sue Broker Griffin also? File suit?
Yeah, everybody will get named in the suit.
Interesting.
Yeah, file a formal complaint, hearing, most
Yeah.
likely, loss of license. Okay, how about another one?
Find a new line of work for 25, please, sir.
Ooh, gonna go for the big money.
Interesting.
That's kind of getting
I
up.
think she had.
No,
a good
she should've got the lawyer
case.
first.
She can't appeal.
There we go. She should have got the lawyer to go down there with her
Yeah,
the
right.
first time, because on appeal, you can only address issues that were in error.
Yep.
And here, she laid her case out there. What are you gonna do on appeal anyway? Say, well, y'all just weren't listening to me.
Let me see if I can explain this.
Yeah, let me explain this a little different.
really didn't mean to.
Yeah, confirmed. Yeah, we don't,
Yeah.
okay?
Featured in the newsletter for 25.
Let's go.
Wow.
Going for the hard ones now. Risk.
They have to disclose that they
Yeah, they
are a
do.
real estate broker, agent, or own the business, whatever the case might be.
Yeah, this is, we talk about this situation in, I think it's pre-license, to where what you should do is, once you decide, I want to buy my listing, you need to let your broker know. And let the broker say, all right, we need to write a letter to the seller saying, we're interested in buying this listing. We need to break our agency with you, because how are you going to represent them as an agent now? You're going to be trying to work against them, and they've already told you, here's what I'll take. So they're kind of at a disadvantage, and you got to actually go back and start over and recant them again and say, here are the ways you can work with me. It'd probably be transaction broker at that point, and then move forward from there. But you got to remember, what's the seller's goal?
Sell the
Sell the
house.
house. They don't care who buys it.
Right.
If you give them as much money as they want, they're going to say, write me a check. Let's do one more, and then we'll do something else fun. How about that?
The auditor dropped in for 25,
Oh,
please, sir.
goodness, going for the big money again.
Good morning.
Good morning. Pull one of those chairs in.
Got you in a headlock.
You don't have to be a real estate agent to rent a house, do you?
If it's your own, or your parent, child, or spouse.
Okay.
But here, it says she solicits renters, works out the terms of the lease at negotiating.
Oh, she needs to get a license.
She needs a license, so has she violated license law? I'm gonna say yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, not a very smart. Guilty of. Without license, no limit on the fine. And I've seen them on this one too.
Interesting.
There was a property management company that was operating like this, and they got before the commission. The commission said, well, tell me, how much have you made doing this scheme? And they said $17,500. They said, that's your fine.
Oh.
And you've got to pay that back. Oh my goodness, what are you gonna go? Alright, we did that. Let's
Well, I do got a question. What about if it's like maybe, because you know, you see sometimes a lot of corporations deal with like real estate transactions and stuff like that. Is that a different form of law in regards to corporations dealing with real estate?
well, if you are dealing with an artificial entity,
Okay.
like a corporation,
Yeah.
you don't have to RECAD them,
Okay.
but you still got to do everything else.
Got you.
As a licensee, we're going to have to give them a net sheet, and deal with them honestly, account for the funds, reasonable care, disclosures. We still have to do all those things. Now, real estate a corporation dealing with another corporation, well, if they were just selling a building or something to
Yeah.
them, well, they don't need a license because they're selling their own property.
Got
You
you.
can sell your own property, that of a parent, child, or spouse, without a license.
Okay.
Okay? Let's have some more fun here. Don't want to be like this. First off, any violation of real estate law is a Class A misdemeanor. Can you tell us how much jail time you get for a Class A misdemeanor?
Year and a day.
A year and a day. Ooh,
That would be the max.
that'd be the
Plus
max.
fines if you get
Lots of fines. And
Yeah.
that's what we're gonna deal with here. Nobody in here actually got in jail time, but there's a lot of other punishments that can get you out of business. All right, y'all got this handout?
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
can I backtrack real quick one
Alright.
second? When you first
opened, and now they've changed how big broker name must be. I
Yes.
remember reading one time a guy got a $5,000 fine.
Yeah,
And
used
it's
to,
still
that was
about
the
4 or
rule.
5 years ago, fined $5,000
That's about when they
for
changed
that.
it.
But they, and I wonder whatever happened. And that might have been part of the reason what's going on.
May have been.
But it was listed in here as a $5,000
I wonder if they go back and expunge his record. Probably not.
Probably not.
Y'all
Didn't
know what I'm
offer the
talking
money
about?
back either.
Guy's name's Jeff
Don't get the
Jones.
money back either.
He's a good guy, he's a big agent, sells a lot of houses.
This is the Real Estate Commission's update that they send out about every month or two about things that are going on in the business and what we need to be aware of. Everybody, when they get that thing, they flip back to this back page. That's the first thing you know. They don't look at the front page. They flip back to here, see if their name's in there.
I know a couple of these guys.
Yeah. And when I see one that I know, I say, oh, I hope you weren't in my license plate. I taught you better than that. And you see the first thing on the list here is
Bad check.
the below are found guilty of violating section for presenting to the Real Estate Commission payment for a fine or fee a check which was returned unpaid. These people, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and they fined 5 of them $500 apiece. One of them $250. I wonder why we got off light.
£4 check.
Yeah, that's it. The way you want to do it now is go on their websites and there's a pay button. You can click that pay button, but before you do, go over to your bank and check your balance.
Yeah.
If the money's there, then run over real quick and click before anything else can hit your account. One down the bottom, this one, failing to notify the commission within 10 days after notice of him of the institution of criminal prosecution against him of civil summons. Okay, what they do to them? Fined $500. When you get sued for any kind of real estate transaction, you've got 10 days to let the Real Estate Commission know. Send them the summons, and then they're going to send you a letter back saying, when it's settled, you've got 10 days to let us know what happened. And you'll be off. You won't have any problems here. Also, if you get arrested for something, I don't know where the level is there on being arrested, whether it's anything to do with money. If you got caught credit card fraud or something, they're probably going to take your license anyway, but you got to let them know or they'll fine you and take your license. Wow. They can do bad things to you when you do bad things. But if you get arrested for something, I would just be on the safe side and let them know. Say, hey, I got arrested for shoplifting at the thrift store.
Business is real hard.
Yes, life's tough.
Dollar.
Yeah. Next one, found guilty of violating by failing to notify the commission within 30 days of changing the address of their place of business. Fine that broker $500. We'll say every time you move your business, the Real Estate Commission, if they're going to come in and audit you, they want to know where you are. So you got to let them know, so when they just pop in, you're not here anymore. Next one down here. By failing to provide consumers with the mandatory RECAD form, $250.
How did that happen in Florida?
Well, that name, this person's name on here, is the flat fee company that operates out of Miami.
Okay.
He's got 200 listings here in Birmingham.
Fizbo guy.
Yeah, and he didn't know.
Well, that was wrong. He should have got fined $250 250 times.
You
That
know, I
is
wondered
bull.
why they didn't do that.
Yeah.
That is wrong.
Every single.
Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't recad 250.
They
He should have got
could
250 fines at
Well.
$250.
They could have.
And they should have. He's against the real estate people anyway.
Next one down here, procuring and attempting to procure a license for himself by fraud, misrepresentation or deceit, material misstatement on their application for a license, revoked. And that's what I tell them, pre-license, I talk to people, I say, if you've got something in your background, let them know now. There's a thing, determination for eligibility for a license that you can click there, and it's a form you can fill out, and they'll talk about it, and they'll decide, yeah, this was not that bad. I was at a meeting one time, the girl had some drug convictions against her 20 years ago. And she put her, yes, I have been arrested, and here's what's for. And they said, well, we want to talk about this a little bit. And so they had her appear, and she brought her preacher, the choir. And I'm honest, I thought, whoa. And they listened to her, and they said, okay, we believe you've changed your ways. We're going to give you a chance. And that's all you can do. You can say, here's what I did, but here you like, don't tell them. I don't want them to know about that. You gonna pay them $25 to run a background check on you. You might as well be honest with them now, or else you're gonna go through pre-license. Y'all remember how much fun that was? No? Well, you did it. Next page. Here we got more checks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. One of them they charged $300. Rest of them $500.
Wonder why?
I don't know. I guess
It's a bad check's a bad check, isn't it?
That's
Yeah.
true.
License,
That's
I don't know.
down at the bottom, for failing within a reasonable time to promptly account for, remit money coming into their possession that belongs to others. Failing to deposit and account for all times all funds belonging to being held by others in a separate federally insured account located in Alabama. Oh my goodness. License revoked. $2,500 fine. Another $2,500 fine. So there were 3 people involved in this. One of them lost their license, and the other 2 just got fined.
Hey, Steve.
7,000.
No, there's 7,500 at the bottom and.
And the revoke.
Well, that's the next one down there.
Yeah.
I said, well, did they get theirs for? Oh, yeah, it is the same one.
Yeah.
Different case. So I was seeing Tuscaloosa on these others.
Well, up at the next page, it looks like it's still going with the same
Yeah,
one.
so, yeah, that
License
was
revoked
that's Dave.
and Leeds.
Revoked,
Leeds.
2,500 and revoked, license revoked, license revoked. Oh, that one's in Leeds. 2 of those in Leeds.
Yeah.
That was the owner of the
broker
company
and
and
the
the broker.
And,
Yeah, I know Huggins.
Why does he
And
have 2
real estate.
license numbers
Must
out
have
there?
made off with the money.
well, one's
The company has a license
qualifying
number and the
broker.
qualifying broker
and then the
has
company.
one.
No. Besides his name, James H. Higgins, he has 7584-0 and then 7584-2. Is that
Well,
him as an agent and as a broker?
as you collect licenses,
Oh, okay,
they add a number at the
Gotcha,
end. I'm up
okay.
to numbers. I'm up to 6 now,
Okay. For
and
the,
each one of them's about $200 every time you renew it.
Good
Oh.
gosh.
Yeah. So you see what's going, and these are money issues. You've got lots of money laying over in an escrow account, and things are tough this month. You were expecting this big closing, and your rent's due, and landlord, you don't want to get put out. So you say, well, there's money over there, and we got a big closing coming next Friday. I can just borrow some of this money and put it over in this account and write my rent. That's what happened here. They use somebody else's money for their own purposes.
I don't hold money anymore.
Well, more brokerages are doing that.
I don't at all.
In fact, I don't think we have any escrow money, earnest money that we're holding right now.
I just don't do it. I let the title company or the
Let me tell you
attorney.
something I found out just yesterday.
Right?
Okay? Because I've got a title company. Okay? And escrow, we don't even have an escrow account anymore. We use a separate company to administrate it, called Safe Escrow. And I was actually talking with him yesterday about this. And so we have a way now that if you want to use us for title and for closing, a way that you can take when you get a earnest money check, you can take your camera. It doesn't have to be a special app. but use this cam scan or any kind of scanning feature. There are a number of them out there. I use cam scan, but it's take a shot, scan the check front and back. Okay, that's not going to be endorsed, right? But it's just front and back of the check. And by using the scanner, it's not a JPEG, it's not a picture. This is important. It's a scan, it's a PDF. You email that to me. We can deposit it directly into our escrow account. And it gets the check off your hands and the responsibility away from you. And we use Safe Escrow, and actually doing that, it gets the responsibility away from us also.
That's awesome.
So, and you can do it from anywhere.
That's what we're moving toward. We're moving to more brokers are not wanting to hold earnest money because here,
Yeah.
if your account's out of balance, in fact, just this week, I think it was yesterday, Greg and I were, and I said, whew. I said, I went back through, I said, it's been 10 years of just running balances on our escrow account. Money in, money out, money in, and things are going on all the time. Well, what if I forgot to log something in?
Right.
Well, they could take my license for that, just for an accident.
Yeah.
So I went through one day this week and went back and logged in every single penny we should have. And the money was there.
Straight to the truth.
I was just so shocked. All the money was there. We've been paying our rent out of that account for years. All right,
Do
so
you
they will take your license, yes.
Excuse me. Do you have the purchaser make the check out to Old Republic Title?
No,
When you're
they make it out to Complete Title Services,
complete title services?
the title company.
Okay.
And we have actually 2 accounts now. Our escrow account with Safe Escrow, and also this new account that we're going to be setting up to put earnest money checks in for realtors. And the neat thing about how I got involved with it is, what if we have a real estate agent in Anniston? You know, they don't want to drive into Birmingham to give Steve a check.
Right.
You can do it from your home or anywhere.
That's
Car,
the
scan
future.
it.
Everything's electronic now.
Yeah.
Good.
DocuSign. There are companies here in Birmingham right now that don't do paper. Don't send them a paper contract. They don't want it. Send it to DocuSign. Next one down here. Failing to notify the commission in writing within 30 days, changing their address. That's $100. That wasn't too bad. They could charge him anything. Now at the bottom, having a final judgment for money damages resulted from an act or omission in the pursuit of the real estate business or the goodwill of another business. Finding $500, company $500, and the broker $500.
They do more auction stuff, Granger. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know what.
I'm not sure what he
There's a
did,
lot
and didn't
more auction.
elaborate on it. Yeah, but the auction is a totally different animal than what we do, but they have to have a license. Next one, in the middle of the page, she failed to notify the commission within 10 days after notice of her institution of a civil suit against her, found guilty of a violation, failing to comply. Failed to notify the commission within 10 days after she received the notice of judgment. And they reprimanded her. Ooh, I was thinking they were going to throw the book at her, but they didn't, just reprimanded. I guess that's like a slap on the hand.
So she was just sued, in other words, not her company, but her was just sued
Yeah,
for a
apparently she
collection or
did, yeah,
whatever.
she did something wrong and they got a judgment against her. Down at the bottom, by failing to deposit an account for all funds, all times belonging to others, failed to pay over to her qualifying broker all funds coming in your possession. Exhibiting conduct that constitutes demonstrate dishonest dealings, bad faith, untrustworthiness. $3,000 and revoke the license. Ouch. I hate to get either one of those. And she got them both. Next one, commingling money. And that was fined $2,500 and required to complete risk management for brokers, which y'all are doing right now. So, but don't get fined there. Just and say, well, I've already had the class. And then we'll be in trouble too. $2,500 fine there on their company. Looks like the company in Huntsville. Down at the bottom. used that he procured or assisted in procuring prospects for the purpose of effective rental of real estate situated in Alabama, failing to comply by presenting himself as being able to perform these acts. Well, he didn't have a lot. Well, it says salesperson, and there's no punishment. I'm not sure what went on there. Usually that's one because that first question we had on Jeopardy was, well, one of them is the broker, the owner of the company was soliciting business for the company. Remember that now. The owner of the company can't solicit business for the company without a license.
Right.
Well, this, in Gulf Shores, I know a lot of the condos they rent down there, people don't have license when people call in wanting to rent a condo. They work in the office.
I've got issues with that on apartment managers are exempt from license law, but condominium managers are not. And okay, that's a funny little line y'all drew through. Next page. Presenting to the, this is bad checks again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. Oh, they were feeling generous this time. It was only $250 each.
It's so crazy. Why would somebody do
But that's
that?
what I'm thinking. Why? Why? We harp on this in pre-license.
Yes.
Don't do it. By having entered a plea of guilty and to have been found guilty and convicted of a felony and a crime involving moral turpitude, then in Montgomery, they revoked her license. Then have failing to comply, pay over to the qualifying broker all funds in their possession, exhibiting conduct which demonstrates dishonest dealings, bad faith, untrustworthiness, misrepresenting the selling company on the face of the contract when she was not licensed with that company. $5,000.
She was just doing the most.
Wow.
And the license revoked. Ooh. This is a risk management class, and I think the monkeys, no, I took the monkey off. There's a lot of monkeys out here that can jump on your back. On down here, by disregarding an order of the commission to pay fines. They fined them for not paying the fine. I guess that's kind of like a failure to appear. Found guilty of violating, advertising himself as a real estate salesperson without the name or trade name or a qualifying broker from which their license appearing prominently. There's that word prominently. It just has to be on the advertising. Doesn't have to be big as your name or bigger. Establishing an association by employment or otherwise with an unlicensed person who's expected or required to act as a licensee. Aiding, abetting, conspiring with a person to circumvent the law. And what they do here, reprimanded in order to attend risk management level 1. That's the one we did last. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad none of those are my students.
Yeah.
Last page. By failing to comply, inactive licensees shall be held at the commission office until activated. No act for which license required shall be performed under an inactive license. They revoked her license. Ouch. Failing to license shall have all the following obligations to all parties. To act on behalf of the licensee or his immediate family or behalf of any other individual, organization, or business entity which the licensee has a personal interest only with the prior timely written disclosures to all parties. We talked about this earlier about if you're selling your home for sale by owner, you've got to disclose it right from the beginning. Put it on the sign, put it on everything you're dealing with, because the way they look at us is under a microscope. All they've got to do is call the real estate commission and say, I think they did me wrong. They don't have to say, here's what I think they did. They just have to say, I think they did me wrong. And the real estate commission will open an investigation. And last one down here, qualifying broker to see that all transactions of the licensee comply with the real estate license law, failing to require the licensee to provide the written disclosure to the purchaser. The broker got fined $1,000. Now, Y'all know when you come in here and turn in a contract and the closing check, we've got a little checklist that goes on the front of the folder. First thing on the checklist is the RECAD form. Then you've got to have either a listing or a buyer's agency. One of those you're going to have. You're probably not going to be transaction broker with many people. Then you got the contract, the net sheet, and the closing statement. All of those things have to be in the file before you get a check. And that's why they'll find a broker $1,000 for not having the RECAD form in there. I didn't see about the agent on here, but I'm sure the agent should have got a fine too. All right, y'all like this?
Yes,
Big fun? Big fun? Yes, sir.
With all the, they have a lot of regulations and rules and requirements and things that, the number of agents and brokers now, is it decreasing, increasing? Like a lot more brokers or less brokers, more agents, less agents?
In Alabama, there are 40,000 real estate agents, 10,000 brokers. Probably most of those brokers, I'm gonna bet 80% of those brokers work under another broker. So like if you decided to get your broker's license, you'd go through the class, take the test, and then you'd make the decision. Do I want to have my own company or just stay where I am? When I got my broker's license, I wanted it for the security of knowing I don't have to stay here if I don't want to be here. I can just open my own company at any time. That's why I got mine. I was an associate broker for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. And then finally one day I said, I think I can have my own company. And you can do it then without having to say, oh, what am I going to do for the next 6 months while I'm going through school and get my broker's license? It's always good to have a backup plan.
With the total numbers going up or down?
I'm going to say right now they're probably about where they were before the crash.
10 years ago?
Yeah, and the crash, probably 25% of them fell out of the business. And then
Right.
it's coming back. I know we didn't have any students. The last class I taught during the crash had 1 student. And then we just pretty much closed the school. And then when the market came back, it started coming back. And now the room's full again. But everybody's thinking, well, now there's never been a better time to be in the real estate business. You can put anything on the market right now and you're going to get offers on it. It's going to sell. Because right now we're in a seller's market. There's a 4-month supply of properties on the market right now. And you need about 6 months to have a balanced market. Anything over that, and then it's a buyer's market. You can come in and say, well, I'll give you $1 for it. And they say, whew, at least $1, thank you.
When is everybody's license up for renewal again?
In Alabama, we renew every even-numbered year. And so in 2020, we have to renew our license by the end of August. Have to have the CE done by the end of September. Now I'm going to be doing more CE this spring and then this summer. I don't know how many more I'll do, but I'll do as many as I need to get all y'all in compliance.
So usually about that time, I guess the number of agents probably drops dramatically.
Well, right after renewal
Right after
is when they drop. So like the ones that are licensed right now and not producing anything
Not making
and saying,
money.
I really don't know if I want to do this, as long as you got your CE current, renew the license, because you don't want to have to go through pre-license and post-license again. And I've seen it too many times.
And mortgage rules like that too.
Yeah, you once if you do not renew it by the, September 30th of 2020, you've got 1 more year to pay them the renewal fee. You don't have to do any CE. In fact, you can stay inactive in Alabama for, I guess, forever without doing any CE. But if you want to in fact, I've got an agent that called me yesterday, said she wanted to reactivate her license. And I said, have you done your CE? And she said, no. I said, you got to do that. And I said, have you been paying the renewal fee? And she said, yes. So that's all she's got to do is do the 15 hours of CE, which is the risk management week 1, which we did this week, risk management 2, we're in right now, and you have 3 more classes you've got to do. We're going to get in that in the next. Handouts. Have y'all, did everybody get the handout?
Yes.
One more
It's
quick
right here.
question. Any age where you're not, like after you've had your license, maybe 30 or 40 years, any age?
They
where-
did pass a rule, it's been quite a while ago, they passed it, that said if you were 65 years old in the year 2000 and had been in the business, I believe it was 10 years at that time, you were exempt from CE.
But that was back then, they're not doing anything now.
Well, that person
so-
would have to be at least 85 now. And there are not many people in this business 85. You're all working at Walmart.
I'm getting close. Closer, I get. I'm getting closer to 65 property tax exemption.
Yes, ma'am.
You just mentioned that it's a seller's market right now. I've been hearing rumblings that we might be headed for another bust or whatever. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm believing that the Fed is gonna keep pumping money into the system to keep it going. Because once they stop pumping money into the system, it's gonna be time to pay the piper. And we're gonna be in a lot.
The interest rate's not going up in 2020.
No.
The Fed.
Well, they can't.
No,
They
not going up at all.
It's election year.
They ain't going
Yeah,
up.
well, that's gonna be part of it. They're gonna
It
keep
ain't
feeding
gonna
the
bust.
beast.
Yeah.
And just let it grow and grow and grow.
You better make what you wanna make
Is that what
this
they're
year.
gonna do? They're just gonna keep feeding the beast.
After the election in November,
Yeah, that's when I would be worried. After the election, there are no more bullets in the gun. Because their printing press is out of paper. We got so much debt, I don't know how we'd ever get out of the debt. Luke likes talking about
Don't
Wizard
get him
of Oz. Yeah, we don't want to get it started. The Wizard of Oz is about the economy and how all this is tied together.
Yeah, the whole thing was about the central bank.
I kinda like to hear it myself.
We'll do that maybe at break. Let me get out of this and we'll start our session. Better just jumping into the material. They like for us to have like an icebreaker when you start the class. And so we had two of them. Instead of one, we doubled down and did two. But
I think that monkey was one
yeah,
by itself.
we covered stuff that we're gonna talk about now in a little more detail. So this is Risk Management 2. It's the one that's called for salespersons, but brokers can take it as well. Y'all have seen this before. Gotta have your cell phones off a little, an hour into this. Make sure your cell phones are off. Gotta be here the whole time, sign in, put your license number. Y'all have seen this before. You can check your CE credit on the Real Estate Commission site. I'll have it up maybe a day or two. And then make sure what you've got. We'll along about July, August, I'll check everybody's CE and then start letting people know. Say, have you done your CE yet? And they say, no. Well, get it done by the end of September. Go ahead and renew your license now. You've got to have 15 hours total of CE credit. The risk managements, everyone has to have those. Everybody in the state takes the same two basic classes. And then take something that's going to benefit you, like negotiating, writing contracts, listings, things that you need to know to actually do the business. That's kind of like post license. Pretty much anything you take in post license will help you in this. We already talked about renewing at even years, but you've got to renew it by August 31st or there's a $150 penalty. We got a lot of things we're dealing with besides the monkey. These are the monkeys that are on your back. Federal laws. When I got my license, there were no regulations. Lead-based paint hadn't even started. Now we've got antitrust, fair housing, RECAD, all the Alabama contract laws, real estate laws, everything, just health and safety, local laws. Some of the cities have passed ordinances where you can't have over 2 people in a bedroom. I don't know if they come around and knock on your door and count the people in the bedroom. I don't know how that works, but realtors actually have another set of rules on them called the Realtor Code of Ethics. They have a standard of care. And then court decisions. Whatever's happened in the past, they're going to say, okay, well, here's how we handled it last time. This is probably the way we're going to do it again this time. And like I told you last time, attorneys love that saying, it depends. That's kind of like the cab driver, or now Uber drivers, when they hit the start button and the meter starts running. When they say it depends, is they mashing the start button and the money starts rolling. This section on risk management, we're going to look at the roles that we do, the obligations we have, our duties, RECAD provisions, when we have to do it, how we do it. And we got some vocabulary. Y'all don't have a test in this class. If you're online, you'd have a test, but in classroom, y'all can just zone out.
Never do that.
Because there's no test, but I don't want you to zone out. Try to keep it moving. How can we work with people? That's how you start. You have no relationship, and then you move through the different levels of relationships. Agency. You start out, you're not an agent with someone. You just met them. You bumped into them at the grocery line, and they saw your name tag and said, oh, you're in the real estate business. What's the market doing now? And you just start talking to them. You have, because you have a license, you have obligations to them. You can't lie to them. If they give you money, you've got to account for it. You've got to use reasonable care. Keep confidential information, like they're telling you they're fixing to get a divorce, that they just won the lottery. You got to kind of keep that to yourself. And disclose anything that you've got to disclose, like you are an agent. These are the things you owe everybody. But agency creates a higher level of responsibility called fiduciary. You've got to put their interest above yours. Oh, that's hard to do sometimes, because they're wanting to look at houses over here in Hoover, and they're wanting $300,000 houses, and you're looking down through there and say, okay, this one's got a 3% commission, that one's got a 3% commission, that one's got a 2.5%. Let's go look at these two first. No, you need to find out what they need from you and help them get what they want. It's not about you and what you want. Don't worry about the commission, because you may be doing that sale now, and the next sale you're dealing with is somebody buying a $100,000 house, and what are you going to get on the, you're going to be worried about the 2.5 or 3 on that one too. Don't worry about the commissions. Just do your job, and the money will come to you. If you pretend to be their agent, then you're committing fraud. You're giving them advice. That's kind of where you cross the line into agency. Well, I think you should offer them this. Well, that's giving them advice. As long as you're just giving them public information, the price is $299. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's got this many square feet. These are the things you can tell them. But when they say, well, what do you think I should offer? Now we're kind of crossing the line, and we're getting into fiduciary responsibilities. Different, everything that we do basically in this, you've got to have an agreement, a written agreement. That's called express, where I'm expressing what I want, what you're going to pay me for doing this. It'll be a listing, that's where you're working with the seller, or the buyer agency, where you're working with the buyer. You put your commission in that as well. And the time they both work the same way. And then when you do contracts, everything you're dealing with here is in paper. That's special, fiduciary. Now, you're agents, and you go out and get listings. Those are not your property. You're a sub-agent under your broker. The broker owns all the contracts. Wonderful being the broker. If you leave that broker, the contracts belong to the broker, so you can't take them with you. If you call the client, because you got client with them now, because you got an agency listing agreement, and you say, well, you know, I'm moving over here to ABC Realty because everything's wonderful over here. You need to come on over here with me. Well, the Real Estate Commission will take your license for doing that. Yeah, bummer. So don't do it. You know you're gonna be leaving because you're working on your broker's license and you're thinking, here I go, I'll have my broker's license by here. I really don't want to get any listings right now. Tell them it'll be about 2 weeks before we can do that. So cover your assets. Sales agents, we're special agents. We have such limited authority. We can show the house with an appointment. We don't just go to the house and go in. We've got to have an appointment to go in that house. We see the grass is too high, we can't order it to be cut. The house needs painting, we can't order that. We're just special agents. We've got limited things that we can do for this seller. Now, if we were managing their house as a rental, then our level goes up. We go from a special agent to a general agent. There we've got more responsibility. We see the grass needs cutting. The owners in California or somewhere, they don't know. It's up to us as a general agent to get the grass cut. The gutters need cleaning. The owner's not coming from California and clean the gutters. You're not going to clean the gutters either. But you've got to get it done because you're responsible for the house. Put the client's interest above yours. Okay, I've got that. Fiduciary responsibility, all contracts. Am I going backwards? There we go. Here's how you start. This is the RECAD. This is information that's on the RECAD form that you give everyone at first contact before any confidential information is disclosed. You start out as a transaction broker. Transaction broker, you just owe them the basic duties. You're saying, hey, an example is you may be sitting at a builder's property. You're not the builder's agent. You work for your company. And you're sitting at that builder's model. Well, when someone comes in and they've got an agent with them, well, you can't get in the middle of that relationship that person's got with their agent. But if you were working for the builder and sitting there and someone walks in the door, it doesn't matter what if they've got an agent, then you're going to deal with their agent. But if they don't have an agent, you cannot represent them. The builder's not going to let you. They're going to say, no, you work for me. They'll all be a transaction agent to you. So all you can do with them is say, what would you like for me to write this offer for? Because the builders normally don't discount. They've got to keep the price up so the next appraisal will come on top of that one. If they start discounting price, then the appraisals are messed up. The way you deal with a builder is you get extras. Like you want a stainless steel package or you want a privacy fence. If you can negotiate that in, that doesn't show up as a reduction in price. But a transaction broker, you couldn't advise them on that. You could say, okay, you like the house, this is what you want. Are there any more questions before we start the paperwork? And they'll say, no. And then they may say, well, what should we offer? And your next statement should be, what would you like to offer? That's transaction level here. Now we can move up one to single agent. That's where we're working with a buyer and we take them to a new home community. They don't like to be called subdivisions, new home community. You take them in there. Now you're representing that buyer. And you're going to use all your negotiating skills to get the stainless steel package and privacy fence, and you kind of like a little gazebo built in the backyard, and you want this and you want that, and you can do that because you're working against that other agent now. Sometimes you will have a listing, your company will have a listing, and you have a buyer that's interested in that property. Now, that's where we've got to kind of take our little I'm working for you hat off for a minute and kind of go back to transaction broker, really, because you can't say, well, the buyer just won the lottery. They got $1 million. They want this house. They don't care what it costs. You think that's going to hurt their bargaining position? Yeah. Or if you're representing the seller and you know he's 3 months behind on the payment, one more month and the bank's gonna be knocking on the door, you can't tell the buyer that. That's where we're in this dual agency. We gotta kind of do this. We can't tell either one of them anything that'll hurt the other one. The one down at the bottom called sub-agent, you as agents are sub-agents under your broker. Another situation where you're a sub-agent is if you have the buyer and you don't have an agency relationship with them. Remember you met them at the grocery store line and they said, hey, I'm looking for houses around here. And they said, I found one right up here I kind of like. Can you show it to me? Well, can you show them that house?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can show them that house, but you don't have a relationship with them other than you're just transaction broker. You got a license. Now, if you don't have an agency relationship with them, therefore you are actually working for that seller's broker. For the seller, actually, because the broker's working for the seller. So that's a dangerous situation to be in because you've got this buyer and you want to help them and they'll say, what should we offer? And you just start saying, well, they got it on the market for this and I think you ought to ask them for this and you ought to ask for that and that and that and that. Well, you've jumped over the line because you don't have agency with them. Know where you are. No implied agency in Alabama. If we are working with them in that situation, we start implying, well, I'm representing you. You're not. So that's fraud. Here's how we have to work with people. Just because we have a license, even though we have no relationship with them, we got to answer their hard questions. Hard questions is honesty. You can lie to no one. Half truth is a whole lie. You got to account for funds. Remember, we had a couple of these things where people were not accounting for all funds at all times and separately federally insured account. You got to account for all funds that come to you. You got to use reasonable care. You don't want somebody to use reasonable care for you. That's what they expect from you. And disclose material facts. If you know about them, you have no duty to discover material facts. But if you know about them, they tell you, yeah, don't step on that soft spot in the floor there because the termites have just eaten it all up. Well, now you know about, and that's a latent defect. It's hidden. Somebody just walking through here, unless they fall through the hole, wouldn't know it's there. But if you know it's there, you've got to talk about it. And answer their questions truthfully. They say, what's that soft spot in the floor? You say, oh no. And you did know. Well, now that's concealment, which is fraud. Fraud has three elements. One, you told them something you shouldn't have told them, lied to them, omitted something that you should have said. They relied on that information and then they were damaged by it. The fine is triple the damages. You don't want to go there. And then they're going to call the real estate commission and say, you're not going to believe what they did to me. And the real estate commission will be calling you and say, I just got a call. And you say, oh no, who from? Things that you can do as a transaction broker, even though you have no relationship with them, you can show them properties. They want to see that one over there, fine, we'll go look at it. You can give them information about financing. With all, you're not going to do the deal. I can say 80% of the deals have financing on them. So it's not likely you're going to sell a house if they can't get financing. So first thing you need to be asking someone is, do you have an agent? And actually you need a signed agency agreement. They may say, yeah, I've been, my friend's been showing me stuff. Do you have a signed agreement with them? And if they do, then you need to let them work with that agent. If they don't, then you want to get them on paper. The paper gives you the right to advise them. Also the right to get a commission. You can show the properties, assist with that financing. You can keep your financing simple. Don't get your calculator out and say, well, the present value of money is this, and the current interest rate is this, and the payments are this. By the time you put in about the third number, they're out of here. I saw someone lose a sale one time when they got their calculator out. Whoa. Now, I learned from that. Now I use a simple rule of thumb. I say for every $5 that you're going to finance, for every $1,000 that you're going to finance on a 30-year mortgage, your payment's going to be about $5 a month. And that'll probably, at our interest rate now of around 4%, that should cover taxes and insurance as well. So if you're going to finance $100,000, your payment's going to be about $500 a month. Got that?
Including tax and insurance?
At 4%, yeah, it'll probably include taxes and insurance. So your total payment, $5 for every 1,000. So the way they look at you, y'all remember our ratios on financing, 28 and 36%, front end, back end. Well, the front end is at $500. That means they want you to make about $500 a week to qualify for a $100,000 loan at our current interest rates. And you don't need to ask them how much they make. So what price house y'all want to look at? And they say, well, we make $1,000 a week. Let's be looking at $200,000 houses. And if that's all they can qualify for, don't show them $400,000 houses. They're going to be disappointed when they finally get to what they can afford. That's just not what they really wanted. But that's the second question you should be asking them. Do you have an agent with a written agreement? And have you talked to a mortgage company? Those are the first two things you need to cover in this business.
Do you have a pre-qualification letter?
Yeah, have you talked to one? Yeah, have you got that?
Can I have it?
Yeah. So you can do those things.
They ain't worth the paper they're wrote on.
Well, maybe not, but at least it gives you a starting point. Now, we had our transaction broker duties. Now we've got some other duties down here if we want to be their agent. These are the fiduciary duties. That's where we have to answer to the colonel. The C is confidentiality. It's a higher level of confidentiality here. You got to, got sidetracked there. Obedience. If they ask you to find out what school system this is, and you're their agent, that's a lawful instruction for you. You don't need to say, I don't know. Well, you go figure it out. No, they ask you to do it, and you're their agent. You need to jump on the internet or call the schools, here. And in Hoover, you may be in Hoover or the county. And there's a difference. You call the Board of Education and say, well, here's the address, and they say, yeah, that's Hoover, or no, that's county. And then you go back to your client and you say, yeah, it's Hoover. And you knew it wasn't. Now you got bigger problems. And your loyalty, you got to be loyal to them. Stay with them, stick with them. Sometimes they'll wander off for a week, but stay in contact. Don't drop the ball, be loyal to them. And they're making an offer on a listing, and you got somebody else over here you think is going to make a better offer. You got loyalty to your client. Even though you may have another client over here that's going to want that same house, you better not get in the middle of this. You need to, I got this offer first. I'm doing a net sheet with it, sending it on its way. This one may or may not come. But always be loyal in this situation. This is where everyone starts. When you meet someone for the first time, you give them this form. Every agency in Alabama uses the same form. Some of them may put their name at the top of it, but the form itself is going to be just alike. They're the things that we just had in our hard questions. Those are things you can do. You have to sign it. The customer, at this point, that's all they are, is a customer. They don't have to sign it. But because you just met this person and you say, hey, I need for you to sign this form. They're going to say, what is this form? Mama told me not to sign anything until she saw it. Well, what's this all about? Well, you're going to get those. So they don't have to sign it. This is an information. It tells you up top, this is not a contract. This is an information sheet for you to know that there are different ways we can work together. You sign it though, and date it. And if they won't sign it, we met at this house on this date, and just have it with your papers. Because remember, this is the first thing you got to have in the file.
Is there a way to have that saved on your computer, for instance? In other words, print it out, sign it, you sign it. You're not going to date it because you don't know the date, but just you sign it, and then be able to send that to the customer.
You could.
I mean,
You could
so you don't have to
PDF,
keep carrying them around with all.
DocuSign, you could have it in there, but you're going to give them this piece of paper so
Right.
they can read it and understand. And there's two forms that go along with it. This just gives them an idea of what an agent is and what a customer is and how do they want to handle you. And then this breaks them all down: transaction broker, single or dual agency. And they can read this and say, well, I want you to be my agent. I don't want you working for both sides. I want you to be my agent. Well, this gives them information to make a better decision. This would be a material fact. You're having to disclose all material facts. Well, this is the material fact of them, how you're representing them or not representing them. We're going to go about 5 more minutes and take our break. We're only going to do one break in this short class. Agency is so important that it is disclosed not only on that form. In that form, you're not actually picking out how you're going to work with them, but you're going to have on the very first page of the contract, number one, first thing we can talk about is who is working for whom. Listing company, working probably as an agent for the seller. Pretty much. Rare you're going to have a transaction as a listing. And then the selling company, who are you working for? Got to have a license. So if you're doing this, you've got a license. I don't remember, well, y'all weren't in my pre-license, but a lot of y'all were. You got to have a license to do a barn sale. If you're helping someone buy, you're aiding them, helping them find properties, you're renting something for someone else, you're negotiating on their behalf, you're helping them sell their house, advertise it, list it, or negotiate on, exchange, which is a tax thing, 1031. If you're doing any of these things, you've got to have a license to help another in Alabama, whether you're getting paid or not. With the exception of, y'all remember who? Parent, child, spouse, or your own property.
Okay, let me ask you one quick question about that. So if I have an office assistant, okay, not a licensed realtor,
Okay.
but somebody maybe I'm paying hourly or salary, whatever, but she's an assistant, my assistant. Can she help with those things under me?
No,
Okay.
if she's not licensed.
Yeah.
Like the receptionist, you hire a receptionist, that's probably going to be somebody hourly to answer the phone. They can take rent if somebody comes in. They can take a earnest money check. They can accept a contract on behalf of the company, but they can't say, well, no, this contract, you need to do this. No, they can't do that.
They can go out and put a sign in the yard.
They can put a sign in the yard, put the lockbox, do the pictures. Those things are not on that list.
Right.
If it's on this list, they gotta have a license.
To buy, though, what would that covers a real wide area, I would think. So.
Yeah. Their goal is, if you don't have a license, don't be involved in the transaction.
Right.
But
Okay.
administrative duties like a receptionist, answering the phone, forwarding calls, taking messages, that's not a barn sale. Okay, in addition to that RECAD form, every year, we'll be sending, in fact, it's about time for me to send it out. We'll be sending it out in a DocuSign form. It'll be the RECAD form. It'll be the RECAD form with a little box down here, and it'll be yellowed in to where all you got to do is click there and then send it back to me. Because every year, the broker has to go over how we work with people. And you have to understand it and say, yes, I understand this. This one was back in 2011. But that's what we have to do every year. This is how we work with people. This is called the office RECAD policy. Now there are people like we had the case study a minute ago, the guy from Miami. He takes listings here in Birmingham. You say, how can he do that? Well, he's taking this minimum, in fact, this law was passed because of him, this minimum service law. He's the one that made this happen. Because the agencies here in Birmingham said, oh no, I don't like that flat fee listing. That's cutting me out. So they went to their friends in Montgomery and said, let's pass a law and try to limit what he can do. He takes listings as non-agency. That means he doesn't have all those extra duties. He's got certain things he's got to do. It says that he has got to be in a position to accept offers, do a net sheet with them, and transmit the offer to the seller. That's all you got to do. Plus answer any questions they have, like, what does this mean? He's not going to advise them. He's certainly not driving up to Birmingham to show properties. He's got a lockbox on there. In fact, the seller will put their own lockbox on there, put the sign, he'll mail them a sign, and they'll put the sign out in the yard, and they will email him pictures that he'll put on the MLS. But he's got to do those. Net sheet, transmit the offers, and that's pretty much it.
Do you ever wish you would come up with that idea?
We have done flat fee listings. We do them. If somebody, they want to do it themselves, and every single seller's goal is to cut out some of the commission. And with this, they can cut it out. They'll pay about $500 up front for you to take their listing, put it in the MLS, and that's about all you're doing. You're not going to probably show the property. You're going to refer them to the owner. Let them show it. But yeah, this is perfectly legal as long as you do this. Yes?
Remember that one I looked at the other day, it was that flat fee guy.
Yes.
All right. Just to find it was a hassle because there was no sign in the yard.
Oh.
Yeah, so I drove by and I think, well, it should be right here. Went around, no, came back. It's got to be right in here. Had to split between these two driveways. And you got up in there, no sign, no nothing. You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Luckily I had called, so I went around back and found the lockbox,
Yeah.
But anybody else would have been just driving by and never know it was for sale or anything.
Yeah.
So he's done about $500 worth of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he entered it in, there it is. Good luck.
See, he's got 200 listings here. It's because people are trying to cut the listing agent out.
He entered it on the...
They think I can do it all myself. They do. And everybody's goal is to cut the middleman out. And we're the middleman.
But as a realtor, that's the minimum that you've got to do in order to get paid.
Well, he's going to have he's not going to have a, well, he will have a listing agreement with them, but it'll say non-agency. And it'll have the selling commission in there because they still, somebody like Greg went and showed one of his properties. Well, Greg expects to get paid if he goes and shows the property and sells it. So there'll be a listing selling commission built in there. That's what they're trying to cut out, is half the commission.
Well,
yes, ma'am.
Well, when he does that on the multiple listing, does he refer, like if somebody sets up a showing, he's got to keep up with all of that and refer them to the owner?
Yeah.
Or in the multiple listing, does it say contact owner?
It does.
It says contact owner?
Yes.
And it's got their name and phone
Yeah.
number. Well, how come when you put one on there, you can't put somebody else's name to contact?
Well, it's down in the agent notes. We'll print one because we've got some of his. We'll print one and look at it and see how he's doing it. Because I know we cannot, in the consumer notes, we can't put any contact information in there.
Right.
I'm guessing he's got it in there somewhere. I guess it was in the agent notes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. It said call Christopher and had his number.
But you can't put call
an agent,
Debbie
though.
and put my number.
Well, and I have, yours is in there, but it's in the agent notes. Consumers are not gonna call you.
Oh, okay.
The agents that are on the MLS, it's like Zillow. On Zillow, you can put an ad in Zillow and put pretty much anything you want in the comments. But in the MLS, there's no contact information. All right, I promised y'all a break. Let's take a break. Back from break. We got some exceptions to RECAD, just a couple of them. It says the form is mandatory. Mandatory.
Not optional.
Not optional. That means you give it to everybody you meet, except if you're engaged in rental properties, property management, you don't have to give the tenants or the owners a RECAD form. If you're dealing with an artificial entity, such as a government or an LLC, a corporation, you don't have to give them a RECAD form. They figure they have a higher level of knowledge than you do. But if you're just doing a commercial deal and it's just a person you're dealing with, you have to RECAD them even on commercial. Misrepresentation or false information given by the licensee. I believe we had somebody in that case study that done some misrepresentation. It says the licensee shall not be liable for providing false information to a party if the false information came from the seller. So if they lied to you and you passed the lie on, you didn't know it was a lie. You were basing it as, this is what they told me. This is where we get in trouble on square footage. Used to, there was not anything on there that says seller provided the information. Now that's on there. It was, if you quote square footage, you had to say, here's where I got it. I got it from the tax record, builder's plan, or an appraisal. And that kind of got that monkey off of your back. The seller couldn't say, well, it's got this many square feet. Now they've got a little checkbox there to where, so I got this from the seller. So if you put that on there and the seller quoted it's 2,500 square feet, and then the people rely on that and move in and it's only 1,800 square feet, well, they're probably coming after you for misrepresentation. And this is where it gets off your back. The seller said it's got 2,500. Contracts. We're going to look at some types of contracts, what's in them, and what we got to look out for if something's not in them. Got some vocabulary with contracts. This is not pre-licensed. Y'all already been tested on this, so y'all just zone out here on the vocabulary. Because in pre-license, the vocabulary is the test.
Excuse me.
Unilateral, when you got pre-license, got a little unicycle there. That's one wheel, that's one person, that's a one-sided contract. It's not a contract, it's one-sided. Someone has written an offer. That's what an offer is a unilateral potential contract. They're going to send it to the seller, and the seller is going to look at it, and if they say, yes, this is exactly what we wanted, all they have to do is initial, everywhere it says initial, and sign it. Then we move into a bilateral, two-sided contract. Two people are in agreement on everything. That's called meeting of the minds. That's where you have to consult your mom for every contract. Meeting of the minds. Some other acronyms on contracts too. But you got a two-sided contract. Now the offeror sent the offer to the seller, and the seller said, y'all had post-license where you flinch? Well, that's what you do. You flinch when you see that first offer. Oh no, I can't believe you've offered me that. And they're just going to strike that out, and then they're going to put a new number there that they like better. Now that offer is dead. It's just like it's a brand new one-way offer going back to the buyer. And the buyer looks at that and they flinch and say, oh, I can't pay that much. So they'll strike through that, send it back, and that offer's dead now. So it's never a two-sided offer until everybody's on the same page. We're in complete agreement on all the terms, price, and everything else. Got to be in writing to be enforceable if it's transferring an ownership in real estate. The only time you don't have to have a real estate deal in writing is if it's a lease for under a year. A year or more, got to be in writing. Everything else in writing. Now, your contracts have to have some legals in them. There are 4 legals, and I came up with a mental picture to put all these legals together. You've got to have, first it's got to be for a legal purpose. It's got to be the legal age, have to have the authority to just do it, like you can't sell your neighbor's house. And you've got to have mental competence to do it. Someone that is not all there, they can't sign a contract. So I came up with kind of a mental picture of a porpoise. Y'all seen a porpoise, y'all know what a porpoise looks like. That's our legal purpose. And riding on our legal porpoise, we've got Andy from Mayberry. Y'all remember Sheriff Mayberry? Well, he's got the authority. He's a sheriff, he's got the authority. And then we got another character from there, Floyd the barber. I remember Floyd, we're just not sure if Floyd's got both oars in the water. But we don't know that unless we see a piece of paper that says he's incompetent. He can sign a contract. And then we got one more person sitting on the porpoise, and that's Opie. Because Opie's not old enough to sign a contract. In Alabama, you have to be 19 or either 18 and married to sign a contract. So we've got our legal porpoise, and then Andy, the sheriff's got the authority, Floyd's maybe got the competence, and Opie doesn't have the age. Those are the 4 things that have to be in a contract for it to be valid. Now, you can have valid, void, voidable, or unenforceable contracts, depending on some of those things are missing or wrong. Like if it is for an illegal purpose, we're missing our legal porpoise there. So the contract is not enforceable. It was void from the beginning. You also have to have, in addition to our 4 legals, you have to have consideration. Something for something. You can't have a one-sided contract say, I'm just going to give this to you. They can't force you to give it to them. It's got to be something for something. I'm going to give you some gold coins, and you're going to give me title or deed. You're going to give me a deed to this property. Title's clear. It can be good or valuable. Valuable is cash or its equivalent. Good is like between relatives. Parent may give the child part of the land. Well, they're not going to charge them for that. They're going to say for good and valuable, $10 another good and good
Valuable consideration.
But everybody's got to have a meeting of the minds, and it can't be under duress. You can't. What we're having right now is elder abuse, to where we've got generations that have moved in with each other, and now grandma's 93. You have to take care of grandma, and you'd rather not be doing that. So, grandma, it's time for you to go to the home. Well, grandma might not want to go to the home, but the kids all gang up on her and say, well, this is just the best thing for you, and it's just everything's going to be wonderful if you just, and they just kind of force her to sign the house away. That's duress. Another duress is you've been out showing houses. I guess this is not duress, this is a word will come to me in a minute. But you've been out showing houses, and y'all gonna go to the bar and figure this out. Write the contract. So y'all sit down at the bar and you start pouring alcohol into the buyer. Well, that's probably the incompetence.
Undue influence.
Yeah, undue influence, that's where we're gonna have issues there. So that can void the contract. Voluntary consent, no duress. We're good. And there they are. Now, Andy has been in this town for a while. Floyd's been there for a while. They've got a relationship. Andy sits down in that chair. Do they have a contract at that point?
Yes.
Yes. You have a pre-license plan. Of course they do.
I've seen that
You've seen this movie before.
That's right.
Yes, they've got a contract. What kind of contract is that? Is it an express
Implied.
or implied? Implied. He knows what he's gonna get. He sits down, Floyd picks up the scissors. They don't have to say, hey, Floyd, I don't want it on my ears. He said that the first time. He doesn't have to say that every time he sits down. And you didn't have to ask Floyd, how much is it today? Inflation probably wasn't an issue back then, but they have an implied contract. We don't have implied contracts in real estate. We have express written contracts. Everything about it is spelled out and written down, and we have a meeting of the minds. We have to drink a cola with every contract. The C is the consideration. The O is the offer. The L is our 4 legals we just went over, and then the A is the acceptance. Just because you gave me an offer, I looked at it, I liked it, I said I'll take it, and I sign it. We don't have a contract yet.
No cola.
No cola, we don't have it, we didn't drink the A part. We just got right down to the bottom of the drinks, and everything down there is spit. I don't want that. But you got to drink that last little sip of the cola, and that's where you give it back to them and say, I accept. Express, just talked about that. Intentions are stated. Now, we can have an oral real estate contract saying, I'd like to buy a house. I'll meet you down at the lawyer's office Friday at 5 o'clock, and I'll have a bag full of money, and we'll just swap. I don't have to show up, and you have no recourse if I don't. You don't have to show up, and I have no recourse. So, but if we put it all on paper, then we may have an issue. Statute of frauds covers that. It must be in writing to be enforceable. Alabama, we've already talked about implied agency. Don't walk like a duck and talk to them like a duck, because they'll think you're a duck. They get you goose cooked. Here are valid, our contracts. It's valid if it's got all our COLA and our 4 legals, then we've got a valid contract that can be enforced. Void is where it had no legal force from the beginning. You contracted with Andy because you heard he had a big heroin bust the night before, and you say, I want to buy all that heroin from you. And Andy said, sure. I don't need it. And you write up a contract with him. Floyd's going to buy all Andy's heroin that he got last night in that bust, and then the sheriff won't sell it to him. You think Floyd can go before the judge and say, Judge, he had a contract with me? No, because it was for an illegal purpose. Voidable is where Opie signed the contract. Opie's got, y'all didn't know this, but Opie's got a drinking problem. And he needed a place he could go with his friends and they could party. So he rented Floyd's garage apartment. And he's only 10 years old, 12 years, something like that. And he's old enough to want to drink, so let's make him 12. He can smell gasoline and perfume. Now he wants some alcohol. So he rents a garage apartment for Floyd and tears the place up. Burns it down. Has Floyd got any recourse?
No.
No, because Floyd should have known he was 10 years old. He knew when he was born. So Floyd entered into a contract that he cannot enforce on Opie, but Opie can enforce it on Floyd. It's kind of a two-way but one-way street there. Other things like under duress, alcohol, drugs, elder abuse, those are voidable. And then unenforceable is where I say, I'll buy you property, I'll meet you down at the lawyer's, but we don't put it on paper. That's unenforceable. These are some of the things we talked about a little earlier. Earnest money. Earnest money is money that Ernest puts down to show he's earnest about doing the deal. Not required for a valid contract. It's going to be what's called liquidated damages. You say, all right, I'm going to put $1,000 down. And here's another thing. Somebody puts down $100 as earnest money. What do you think the probability is that's going to close?
It's probably about 1%.
Yeah, if that. Even 500. We've had year or so ago, we had 3 different people just walk away from $500. In fact, you had a deal. They walked away from $500. Just I don't want it. You get 1,000 from them, and they got some skin in the game. They're less likely to walk away from it. But it's not required to have a contract. In fact, we've had contracts that happen so fast that just don't even give us earnest money. Just show up there. We're going to close in 4 days. The check won't even clear by then. So you don't have to have it to have a valid contract. It's just going to be liquidated damages if they back out. Now, y'all might not have known this. A buyer's agent has the right to present their offer to your seller. Whoa, wait a minute, I don't want them talking to my seller. They have the right because you've got a reputation. They know that you hold offers back. And you've been known to hold offers back, and people know that. So they got a deal with you, they want to present that themselves.
How do you go about that?
You just tell them, I want to present my offer to the seller. And they can't say no.
They have to give you the address, their name and phone number.
Well, they
and
probably gonna be there
everything.
with you. I'm not, no, I don't
Yeah,
want
I
them.
would.
Yeah, I don't want them sitting there with my seller. Because that agent said, I'll cut my commission in half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Delivery and acceptance. We got those in our COLA. Gotta have that. And if they send it to you in email, they say you should send it back in email. You send it the way you got it. Just verbal won't do it. And you can put a timeline or time limit on it. You can say, I want a response by 5 o'clock Friday. And if they don't give you the response by 5 o'clock Friday, then that offer is invalid.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the, in fact, our contract now has time is of the essence printed in it. So all the numbers, all the dates are all carved in stone now. You change your mind. You sent the offer over there to the buyer, to the seller, said, I'll give you all this money for this property, and the seller's thinking about it, because they always do. They won't think about this for a minute and talk to Uncle Henry. And the buyer's still looking. They found another house, just like yours, 3 doors down, for $10,000 less. Do they still want yours now?
No.
Probably not. Anytime before the acceptance comes back to that buyer, the buyer can say, no, I've changed my mind, I don't want it. Give me my interest money back.
Right.
And you got this over. Because you didn't give them the acceptance back pretty quick. Y'all know about the, you make a mark on the offer, it's dead, it's got to go back, and you start the offer, you start the contract, you put today's date on it, and then you go on down through the contract, and at the bottom there's another place that says finalized date. Well, that's not today. That's after we have negotiated. Maybe 2 or 3 days have gone by, and now we've got a meeting of the minds, and the last person initials the last change and communicates it back with their acceptance. Now this is our finalized date. The finalized date is the day when all the clock starts on your inspection, your financing, any other contingencies you have in there. They're going to be based on that date, not the date that we started the contract. Y'all have a couple of things that you can do with the contract. When you're writing the contract and you put a form in there, if it's an FHA loan, you've got an addendum, ADD, you're adding something to the contract. It's called a VA and FHA addendum that you would put with the contract at the time you created it. Now, later on, since we've got this time is of the essence in there, and the mortgage company keeps telling you, hey, I gotta have this paper, I've gotta have this. You didn't get me your W-2s. I need. Where are you getting all this money? And you dragging them out, and now you're getting up to the date of closing. Supposed to close the last day of this month, and it hadn't closed yet. You're going to have amendment. Amendment is where you're mending the contract that's already written. You'll have to say, hey, we need another 2 weeks to close this.
If somebody really they change their mind and don't want the house, and they drag the mortgage company along, don't provide sufficient documents, this and that, so the loan's rejected. Well, the contract states it's contingent upon financing. So they pretty much can get their earnest money back and get out of it because they didn't comply with the mortgage company.
Yeah, it happens. It happens.
As a mortgage company, I've had real estate agents, and this is not uncommon, I've yet to figure this out, but the realtors call me and said, you know, this would be like, let's say the 1st of December 1st. And they'll say, well, you know, we got a property sold, such and such is buying it, and we've got a closing set up for December 29th. And just want to let you know. And I was like, set up by who? Where'd you get this information? Who says so, you know? Because we don't have any paperwork, know nothing about the client, you know. Now, I know the guy, but, you know, I've had that happen. And it just amazes me.
So how much time do you like for the real estate agent to give y'all to close?
Well, we need as much time as possible, but typically, in the mortgage world, despite of what people tell you, you know, we can close a loan in 10 days or a week, you know. Well, yeah, maybe, that has happened, but in reality, you know, you want about 45 days. I mean, well, I mean, just, you ask and that's the answer, okay? Now, if we need to close it sooner than that, we can try and do that. And it depends on the customer's credit, income, all that stuff that Steve's been kind of going over. But, you know, in the mortgage world, nothing's ever easy. Selling a house is like opening a box of crayons compared to getting a mortgage. Okay, but so, and real estate agents just don't get that. That's just my little bent, so, you know.
Okay. Unless y'all went to law school, you're not supposed to write your own contract clauses. They're written by an attorney, and they got all this legalese in them that every word means something to somebody that went to law school. So on the Board of Realtors website, they've got about 5 pages of clauses. If you need one of them, snip it out and put it in your contract. Don't write your own. Closing date, just talking about the closing date. It's in the contract now. It says, well, it's always been in the contract. Here's our closing date. And this is one of the things that gets overlooked a lot of times. Because you're talking about the contract, you're reading the contract, and they said, when do you want to close? And my mortgage guy said we could do it maybe in 10 days. I don't think we can. Maybe we can do it in 30 days. Well, why don't we just go 45 days? You got a calendar and we can see when 45 days is? And I said, yeah, I get it. And you start talking about something else. And you forget about the closing date. And you go all the way down through the contract and you forgot to put the closing date on there. And everything says, time is of the essence. Well, this is not going to invalidate the contract because they've got a meeting of the minds. They both want to do this deal. You're just going to have to get back with them and say, hey, we were talking and we forgot to put the closing date on there. Probably the seller's going to catch it because they want to know when's it going to close? When am I getting my money? And you'll have to go back and make a change there, put the date in and initial. Anytime you change it after anything, you've got to initial it. Both parties will have to initial it.
Also, that's why getting a pre-qualification letter, a firm pre-qualification, you know, once you mentioned earlier, well, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Some aren't, some aren't. Depends on like a pre-approval or pre-qualification. But that way we've got the mortgage guy already knows the customer, has gotten his tax returns, gotten his pay stubs, gotten 90% of what it needs already before he starts looking at homes. It'll make your job a whole lot easier.
So is that on a pre-qualification or a pre-approval?
Pre-approval. There's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference, but I've had quite a few pre-approvals and they weren't approved.
That depends on the mortgage company also, but yeah, you're right. And the same with pre-qualifications too.
They listen to what they say. I make this much, she makes that much. We owe this car payment, we pay this much rent, yada yada.
Yep.
They do their little thing, give them a pre-qualification letter.
Well,
And it don't work.
Well, you're right, but in this, because the mortgage company didn't verify
Yes.
all that information. But I'll tell you, the way things are going, and you think of the Rocket Mortgages of the world, Quicken, we're set up with them, by the way, and they're good. And other mortgage companies, other lenders are going along this line too. But we can get, where before the mortgage guy had to do all this stuff. But now you're still responsible for it. But now we can get tax returns, bank statements, payroll information. The lender can do this all online within minutes. And so, a lot of it, and that's 90% of it, verification of that.
Yeah. I like a pre-approval letter to be verified. Y'all deal with Rocket Mortgage and Quicken?
Yeah.
No wonder it takes 45 days. I ain't never had any luck with them.
Well, now, okay, let me clarify that, all right? Let me say
Steve's
this
fixing
about
to
that.
kill us, that's okay. Steve's gonna kill us.
Here we go. Another date that's in there is possession date. Possession date normally is closing date. That's when you expect it. But a lot of times they don't close. And what if the seller has packed up the moving van and they're sitting in the car out there waiting to leave for Wyoming and it doesn't close? Oh no.
Happens a lot.
It happens. What are we going to do? Sometimes they will want to have a little time afterwards. We're going to close on this date. We want another week before we're giving you possession. That's got a little problem with your walkthrough inspection too. You might not find things, but it can be done. The seller may need a week, but you're going to write in the contract possession date to be this date. Everything that's in the contract, that's what they're going to go by.
I've been selling real estate for about 35 years, and we always give them 10 to 14 days to close. And I've always sold around this area normally. When I moved to Tuscaloosa, you don't get a day.
Closing, yeah.
Closing is possession is the
Give me the keys
same
at
day.
closing. Yeah, that's
It's
what it
the
normally
same
is.
day, and several people have been sitting in moving
I've
vans
seen it.
and nothing.
Yep.
It didn't close.
We got a couple of words here, vocabulary on contracts. Executory. That's where we have a meeting of the minds. Everyone has signed. We're good. We're moving toward closing. That's what this means. We're moving toward closing. There's still things that need to be done. The financing, the inspections, any other contingencies. That's the executory period. And then executed is all done. Everybody's got the check. We're walking away. And closing means that it's closed. All the accounts are closed. We're not coming back and revisiting anything. Not an attorney, not an accountant, so I'm not going to give legal or tax advice. We're going to know a lot of these things, but we're going to say, I'm not an attorney, not an accountant. You need to check with your person that tells you those things. Principles of contracts. Always use the pre-printed contracts like we just saw. We've got fill in the blanks. That's all we're allowed to do is fill in the blank. We can't start writing, get to the end of it and say, oh, I want to do all this and this and this and this. That's where you get in trouble. Just fill in the blanks. General MacArthur in World War II said, I do not want messages that can be understood. I want messages that cannot be misunderstood. And that's what a contract is. Everything is so detailed, so there's no chance of misunderstanding. You may say, I want the seller to replace the carpet. Well, I would rather not write the contract as seller to replace the carpet, unless I'm going to say with this brand, this color, and get it right down to the exact. I would rather put in there seller to give $2,500 allowance for carpet. Because you think the seller is going to pick out the carpet you wanted, the grade you wanted?
No.
Well, you didn't say anything about the pad under the carpet. You just said replace the carpet. And the reason you want the carpet replaced is because it smells like cat urine. Well, if they take the carpet up, guess what? It's still going to smell that way because the pad's there. Be clear on your contracts. Here's what I want. the give or and the getee. We spend a lot of time on the e's and the ors, but the give or is the one that's giving, and the getee is getting. Buyer, vendor, vendee. We've already covered all this. Here is actually a contract. This is how it starts. It's all blank. You see all those little blank spots in there? Up at the top, you got the date. That's today's date. And then the buyers, I never fill that out. I'm going to put that in their hand and say, you write your name in copybook. That's like you're in the 5th grade. Every letter printed clearly, because the attorney's taking this piece of paper and that's how they're going to write the deed. And if I looked at your, and I can't tell if that's an E or a C or I put the wrong letter, and now I created this deed with the wrong person's name on it, we got more problems. We got to rewrite stuff. Nobody likes to go back and do things they've already done. So let your buyer write their name, and if they're going to take it to a joint tenancy, both of them write your names like you want the deed. Not the way I think you're spelling your name. I can't spell my name. How am I going to spell your name? Let's do it right the first time. This is known by a lot of names. Purchase contracts, sales contracts, 2 or 3 different names. But it's everything's going to be done from this piece of paper. If it's not, it's called outside the contract. If it's not written in the contract, it doesn't count. You said, yeah, I'm going to come over and cut your grass every day, every month for the next 5 years. And you said, wow, that's great of you to do that. I appreciate that. But if you don't put it in the contract, grass is just going to keep growing. There's our agency disclosure. We're just filling in blanks. Your legal description. Just a street number won't get it. The title company is going to look at that street number and say, well, where is that? There's a lot of 1, 2, 3 main streets. You get GPS, y'all done GPS, and you put in a street and it's got 5 choices there. Well, this one's in Birmingham, this one's in Trussville, and this one's in Sylacauga. But if that's all you put in there, which one are they buying? You need to help them out. Either a parcel number, a legal description, give them as much information as you can. And then they can find the piece of property. Now we got this, let's put some numbers on it. There's our disclosure, and then we're going to send this off to them, $100,000 with $1,000 worth of earnest money, and our financing is going to be FHA. So that tells you you're going to have an addendum with it, the FHA VA addendum for this contract that says that if it does not appraise for purchase price, you can renegotiate or walk away. So that tells them something. If you don't put that on there, you're going to have an amendment to go back and ask for VA financing or FHA. All right, so here we sent it off to them, $100,000. They got it. They looked at it and they said, that won't work for me. Least I can take is 105. Sounds reasonable. They were asking 130. And you come back with 105. Well, you knew it was only worth 90 to begin with. You're happy, but you can't give it to them for 100 now, because if you accept the first offer, what are they going to think? What's wrong?
I took 90.
Yeah, what's wrong? I offered too much. It's a game, a lot of fun games. But you got your contract, you ended up at 105. Next thing you've got to do, because we've done RECAD, we've done our contract. Next thing we've got to have, well, we did a fire agency, and then now we've got to have a net sheet. Net sheet is required. You can't use the lender's good faith estimate as your net sheet. You've got to create your own net sheet, whether you're working with the buyer or the seller. And this is just all the things you need to know about a net sheet, but we'll look at one instead. This is for the seller. The buyers is going to have different stuff over here. It'll have the mortgage lender cost here, where the sellers is going to have, first thing's the brokerage fee. That's going to be the biggest number they got to pay probably. This is a $370,000 house. Got a $18,000 commission on it. Ooh, ooh, wouldn't you love to get an $18,000 check? Wow, wow. That's why you're in here, isn't it? Y'all all want that big check. Well, most of them not like this. Most of them gonna be $5,000. That's kind of an average check is about $5,000. But then this is a $370,000 house. You think they would want to pay you 6% on that? I don't see anybody shaking their head yes. Everybody, no, probably not.
They might do it, but they don't want to.
Yeah. Well, so I thought it was 6%. I thought we had to pay 6%.
I was
Used
gonna say,
to.
unless it's Realty South, and then you just say, that's what we charge.
Years
In
ago.
addition to another fee, $249 fee.
Years ago, it was written into the contract. It said seller to pay 6%. And the real estate boards, I don't think it was our board, but some board somewhere got sued for that. That's price fixing. It said it's 6%. It's written in the contract. They didn't know they could negotiate that. This is always negotiable, and it's going to depend on you. Do you want to work for free? No. You want to get as much as you can, but there's a trade-off in here. Got other fees, termites, attorney, all these other things adding up. This is something you see a lot in them. Seller contribution to purchaser's closing cost and prepaids. That's written in the contract now. You can put a number there. You can put a percentage. I like numbers. $5,000 contribution to purchaser's closing cost and prepaids. And that'll come off of the seller's proceeds. Oh, and we got a bonus on there too. $1,000 if it's sold by a certain date, that's fine. So the agent's going to get the $18,500 plus $1,000. And if you got both sides of it, that'd be a nice Christmas.
Sweet.
Yeah, it'd be a
I don't
nice Christmas.
understand why they put prepaids in there.
Well, it's
The
because,
taxes and insurance are not the seller's responsibility.
well, the reason it's in there is because they used to say purchaser's closing cost of $5,000. And the purchaser's closing cost may have only been $4,000. And they think they got cheated out of $1,000 there. So they added that little word, and prepaids. So if there's $1,000 left over, that'll kick over and pay toward their hazard insurance.
To me,
Yeah,
that's
it's,
wrong.
well, it's just the way it works. Depends on whose side you're representing too, as to how you want it to work. Options. Y'all probably won't deal with many options, but an option is where you may want to have this piece of property for your business. I'm going to have a certain kind of business, and I really want it to be on Main Street and First Avenue. And you say, okay, I want to do some more due diligence before I actually commit to this. So you can go to that seller and say, Mr. Seller, I'd like to get this piece of property, but I need about 2 months to do due diligence on this and decide, can I use it for what I need? And the seller may say, okay, I'll hold it off the market for 2 months. You give me $1,000 for that right. That's an option premium. You can put in there to where that would be credited toward the purchase price or not. It's up to your bargaining power. And the seller can't sell it to anybody during that period. You can get that option and assign that option to someone else. We talked about this in pre-license, but that's how Walt Disney bought Disney World down there, all the land. They used options and then assigned them all to Disney. Same rules, all contracts got the same stuff in it. Just, it's not in the contract, it's not there. You can't come back and say, well, I thought you said. Debbie, you thought I had eyes in the back of my head.
Yep.
Some of the things you can do with a contract is assign it, like an option. Novation is where you, say you're in a new home community and someone comes in and says, oh, this is the one for me, we'll never find another one better than this, here's my earnest money and I want it, and 3 weeks later they call you and say, you know, we've been thinking about it, and it's just not big enough. But the builder, same builder's got some big houses up on the main street that we'd like to have one of those instead. Can we swap? Well, that's a novation. And hopefully it's the same builder, because if it's not going to happen. The same builder will say, yeah, sell them the big house. And you would novate the old contract for a new one. Y'all know what contingencies are. Contingencies must be met before the deal closes. And there's 2 or 3, financing, inspection, replace the roof. And that's another one. You may not have the money to replace the roof right now. The roof's going to be $10,000 to replace. Well, you've only got $400 in your checking account. How am I going to do that? Well, you can write that in a contract, that you will write a check at closing made out to the roofer for the $10,000, and then everything's cool. But once you sign and you've got a 2-sided contract, the buyer now has equitable rights in that property. And if the deal falls apart, you've got to get rid of their equitable rights. That's what a mutual release is. They give up their rights to buy that property under the terms you'd already.
What happens if it burns down between contract and closing?
It's at the buyer's option then, because it's
The
insured.
buyers?
Mm-hmm. You may only wanted the location. You were going to burn it down anyway. I don't think you can burn it down like you have to.
Wait a minute, I'm still, say it's my house.
Your house, you got a contract on it, it's supposed to close at the end of the month, and it burns down today. The buyer can say, I'll take it as it is, and you assign the insurance proceeds to me. Or they can say, bring it back up to where it was at contract.
And you gotta do it?
Yeah. Because you had it insured, at the end of the contract, it says,
Says you'll keep it
maintain insurance on it up until closing.
Well, insurance would pay off a lot more than what they're contracted to buy for was.
Yeah, probably. But that.
You could have signed the right to do that though, if you
Yes.
wanted to.
Yeah, it's up to
Yeah.
the buyer, what they want to do. Because it may have been, because we have them all the time to where they'll buy the house and say, I didn't want the house anyway.
Just want the property.
Bulldoze it
Yeah,
down.
they're gonna
Yeah.
bulldoze it down.
Doesn't matter.
You drive around
Homewood,
Homewood
a few areas set up, yeah.
Mountain Brook, especially Mountain Brook. You know, it's got a VA home that was built in 1950, but it's on a half-acre lot on Euclid. They don't want that house. They don't care if it burns down. They're gonna come in with a bulldozer anyway. So if it burned down, they'd say, just assign the insurance proceeds over to me.
You gotta give them all of them, or what they're contracted for?
Well, if the insurance proceeds is not to make you rich, it's to make you whole again. And that's what the insurance company says, this is what it's gonna take to make you whole again.
Brand new, they wasn't buying a brand new house.
Well, you insured it to bring it
To
back
replace
up.
it, yeah.
To replace it.
Yeah, rebuild if it burns completely.
Yeah, I think
to
you
the
would get
ground.
all the insurance proceeds. Mr. Insurance Man, that
Well, I
sound
would
right?
think so.
You got insurance and mortgage in here?
Well, a house is different from a car, so.
Okay, we got terminations. Since I wrote this, I came up with another thing. It's as easy as A, B, C, D, E, and F. The termination, you could assign it, they could breach it, you could complete it, the property could be destroyed, or go in foreclosure. This is an MLS, agency agreement. So up there at the top it says agency. You can do this non-agency. That's the guy in Florida. He does his non-agency. But this is what you're going to be dealing with, is agency. You want to represent them. You want to help them do this deal. This is kind of like our other one. Who, what, when, where, by when. Agency agreements have got 3 things they got to have in them, and I think that's the next slide here. That's the whole thing. Wow. Well, I thought I had that in there. You got to have 3 things in a listing agreement. It's got to have expiration date. cannot have an automatic renewal, and you've got to leave a copy with the seller. But that 4 pages of, here's what we're gonna do for you. Breach is when either the seller, their main thing they're gonna breach on is they can't deliver marketable title. There's something wrong, there's a cloud on the title they've got to fix before they can deliver a marketable title. Marketable means that they can turn around that next minute and sign it without having to do anything to the title. The buyer can breach in a lot of ways. The buyer, I heard of a case where they were sitting at the closing table and the buyer said, well, I just changed jobs this week. Oh no, that's gonna cause problems.
Bad dog, bad dog.
Bad dog. Shh. Sit. Play dead. Don't tell us that, because now the mortgage company says, whoop, everything stops. They can breach that way. They can go out and buy all the new furniture for the new house, buy them a new car. Now their ratios are messed up, and they run another credit report on you day of closing. Well, wait a minute, what's all that? Now your numbers are all messed up. The front end numbers and back end number, 3 of them, now you got 50% in debt. No, everything stops.
If you're working with a decent mortgage company, we have a list of do's and don'ts, you know.
Yeah.
Don't keep
do
your job,
this.
don't go to rooms to go, et cetera, you know. And I have the customer sign that, okay? Not only hand it to them, I have them sign it. And it keeps it in their mind. They might do something crazy anyway, but still.
This is a counter and counter, offer and counter. Sometimes you'll be working on a deal, and all of a sudden it just goes kind of dead. You say, what happened? You know, we made you a counter and we didn't hear back from you. We didn't put a timeline, we got to hear by Friday at 5. We just sent it back to you, and here it is Tuesday, and the seller calls you and said, what's going on? And you say, well, I've just been so busy. I just forgot all about it. Let me see what's going on. And you call the other one and say, oh yeah, we still want it. They just went out, they were out of town the weekend, and this is what happened. It's up to you to keep this thing moving. Don't depend on anybody else, because once you even get to contract, now you've got a whole bunch of people involved in getting your contract to close so you get to check. So it's going to be on you to keep following up with these people. Has this been done? Has this been done? Has this been done? Did you get this paper? There, it's up to you.
Privacy laws stop a lot of that now, though. As far as keeping up with the mortgage company.
Well, the mortgage
call
company's
the
got to have
mortgage
permission for them to even tell you anything.
I know.
Steve, what recourse do you have against, I had a situation one time where we made an offer on a property and the agent never responded, and we kept trying to call to figure out, hey, you know, had your person looked at this? Oh, we lost the contract, so sent the contract again to them. And it just went on. Basically what she was trying to do was get both sides of the sale.
It happens.
Is there any recourse? Can you
Not
report
really.
an agent, really?
In fact,
It's just-
you
Could
can,
she have went ahead and presented it herself the day she got it?
that's what she
and
probably
not
should have
give
done.
them time
Yeah, I
to
want to
get it?
present it to them.
Yeah,
Present it to the seller?
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you have that right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can bypass the agent if need be.
If they won't play, but I get them all the time saying, I'll get a text saying, I just sent you an offer on so-and-so property. Let me know that you sent it to the seller. And I'm thinking, really? That's the law. I have to send it to the seller. But I'll text them back, said, yes, it went out just now. But the seller, once they get it, they don't have to say anything. They don't have to respond. It may have been a $150,000 house and we sent them an offer for $100,000. And they just get so mad, they just won't even answer. You say, what do you want to do? I say, what do you think I want to do? Just tell them no. You don't have to answer an offer. But you have to transmit it to your party, and you have to do a net sheet with it. That's what's on you.
So how could I have gone around that other agent if I didn't have her client's information to even be able to get the
Call
offer
the
to them?
broker.
Call the, okay.
Call the broker and you get a call back real quick. This is intent. I think it's worth $500. That doesn't mean I'll sell it for $500. Next one's, I'll sell when it gets to $500. Well, it gets to $500, now you're gonna wait and sell when it's $600 or $700, right? You just, and would you take $500 for it? That doesn't mean I'm offering you $500. Just, would you take $500?
Nah, I hate that. You say yeah, and then they say, nah, I don't want it.
Yeah. Well, I really can't do it for $500. What's your best offer?
See, I just wanted to get the seal in there.
Yeah.
What's the best you can do? You tell me. I just don't know. Where did that? Earnest money. I think we've already beat earnest money up pretty bad. This is where you can lose your license. A buyer. We had the listing agreement just now. This is the buyer. It looks just like it. Who, what, when, where, when, and on the second page, it's got your commission right here. I have seen these now. Used to, we just said we'll accept whatever the seller is offering as our compensation. But I've been getting these now that I've seen where they're saying, all right, they're putting 3% in there. That the buyer is going to pay them 3% for doing this deal. The third part down here says payment by third parties. If the seller is only offering 2.5%, now this buyer is going to get the checkbook out and pay you that other 0.5%. I got one that they accidentally sent me the net sheet for the buyer they were working with, and they were charging the buyer an extra 0.5% and a $700 transaction fee. And I'm saying, that's gutsy. That's like $1,500 extra you're charging this buyer just to do business with you. Wow. It's not that kind of market out here.
I don't understand why the listing agent always gets the extra. The person that sells it's the one that finds the buyer,
Yeah, they
gets
do
their
more work.
mortgage, does more work, and then the selling agent gets an extra 0.5% or a bonus.
I've seen 2 or 3 here lately to where we were the selling agent and the listing agent got like 60% and we got 40%
I know.
of it.
That's what they're trying to do.
I don't like it
I don't know.
because the river flows both ways now.
Yeah.
You're going to be on the wrong side of this one day and I'm going to remember this.
But I don't do that. I mean, you know, I split it 50-50.
That's kind of the common thing, but it goes to the golden rule. Those with the gold make the rules. And the big dog can say, here's what we're going to do.
Well,
Yeah.
in Baldwin County, they have a contract between the agents that tell what their split's gonna be.
That may be a good idea.
They give it, you know, if you're co-oping with them, they tell you what you're gonna get and what they'll get.
We touched on this earlier. Those are the 3 things on the listing you got to remember. Here's what I did one. It says maybe non-agency. This is the flat fee listings. It works the same way. You still have all the same responsibilities about getting them a net sheet, transmitting offers, disclosing if you have any interest in the deal. Types of listings. You got 4 actually listing types. Exclusive right to sell. That's the one you want. That says, no matter who sells this property, I get paid. That's what you want. But you may have one exclusive agency. That just means that if an agency sells the property, you get paid. The owner is excluding himself. The owner, you may have gone to a for sale by owner and said, let me help you sell your property. And he said, okay, you can help me, but I reserve the right to sell it myself. Anybody else sells it, another company, you're still going to get paid. It will be like the exclusive right. Then you have an open listing. An open listing is what you see with for sale by owner, and then they'll give you the open part of it down there. It'll say agents welcome. That's they're saying I will pay you to sell this. They're not saying how much. If you have someone that wants that house and you're working with them, as a buyer's agency, you have a duty to them to show them that house. You call that agent, that owner, and say, hey, we would like to see your house. What's your commission on it? That probably should be your next question, but
Yeah.
you're gonna get to that question. And he'll say, well, I'm offering 2%, which is what they think they should be paying you. All right? You still have to show it, even if it's at 2%. Remember back when we had our buyer agency a minute ago, when it said, how much am I gonna get paid? And you wrote 3% there? That's why you use that. That's why you fill that in. Because you still have the same duties, same obligations. So if they're only gonna pay you 2%, I really wanted 3, it's a $100,000 house. That's where you're gonna cover yourself. Because,
Would the buyer agree to that? I mean, the buyer might not even think about it. I mean,
well, no, you sit down with them and go through your buyer consultation, and you say, well, our commission for us to help you, our services, our company is 3%. And they'll say, is that standard? And you're gonna say, oh, there is no standard. This is what we negotiate.
but you tell them the seller will pay that.
Yeah, well, no, the
Typically.
seller's
Most
gonna.
of the time.
Yeah, the seller's gonna pay either 2.5 or 3. That's what they pretty much all pay.
Yeah, right.
But see, if the sale by owner doesn't know that, he's thinking 2% is too much.
Oh, yeah.
So he's saying, it's 2%. Well, you've got a buyer agency agreement with your buyer that says, I'm gonna, fiduciary duties to you, I'm gonna show you what you need. So you call that seller and he says 2%, you say, great, when can we see it? Because you're gonna get the other 1% from the buyer at closing. It's gonna be on their closing statement. Extra 1% going to them. Now, while we're on for sale by owners, the sign says, for sale by owner, agents welcome. And you call them, start pestering about getting the listing. Well, if they're on the do not call list, you could get fined $11,000 for that. Ouch. But if you have a legitimate buyer, you can call them, even if they're on the do not call list.
How do you find out if they're on the do not call
There's
list?
a website, do not call, and you can get up to 5 area codes for free. And I don't think we have over 5 around here we'd be dealing with.
No.
Y'all know you gotta dial the area code
You
here
got
now?
205 now, every
Now.
phone call you make.
I remember when 205 was the only area code in the whole state.
It sure was. Yeah, it was.
I do too.
He's showing his age today.
Next one
I
down
think it
there,
must be close. I remember that too.
a net listing. Net listing is where you say, all right, Mr. Seller, or Mr. Seller says to you, I need $100,000 for this property. Anything you get over that, you can have. If you take that listing, that's a net listing, and you will lose your license for that.
We used to do that all the time though, with motorcycles and
Well,
antiques
not
and
real
cars.
estate,
And
yeah.
no.
No, not
We
real
tell
estate.
Bill Patridge at Dirt Bike Supply, I want $3,000. You get 35, 36, 37,
That's
whatever you get.
Yeah.
But why is it so bad with real estate?
You're taking advantage of people that don't know any better. They don't know values. They don't know how it works. Little old lady and her husband bought a house out 10 miles outside of town. Right after World War II, when he came home, got that VA loan, $10,000. Got 5 acres of land with it too. Now the city has grown. He's died. And she's sitting there. She didn't know anything about money. And she calls you up and she said, well, we paid $10,000 for it. I think it's worth at least that now. You can have anything over 10. And there's a Walmart just opened up across the street from you. You think it's worth 5 acres across the street from Walmart? That's why.
Okay, can you, is
But I
it,
mean, it seemed like though they somewhere that's happened to somebody.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it-
why.
is it-
That's happened. But most of them now, you'd be surprised, they know exactly, they pulled up info too.
Oh, they on Zillow.
Pulled up, they got
Got their tax records.
more info than I've got.
is it illegal to buy? Tell them, well, I'll give you $10,000 for it, as long as both people know and you disclose it, and I buy it for $10,000 and sell it for $500,000.
As
You
an
know,
agent, I don't know how that would fly.
yeah, I'm just because I'm thinking you licensed in Jeopardy.
I would think so.
Yeah.
All it takes is their cousin coming in and saying, you
Man,
fool.
that was worth $500,000.
You're involved in it.
Let's call the real
That's
estate
all right.
commission.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like,
see it, but
Friend.
Looking for trouble
That's
here.
when you get a friend to go to
I know.
before you.
Yeah,
Get a
we
friend
had-
to
we had
do
a
it.
client that did that.
Got a friend of a friend that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey Steve, can I ask you one thing? You got open, there, the MLS will not accept an open
Right.
listing. So if they don't accept it, then it's actually not being shown anywhere. I
It's not
mean,
marketed
Yeah.
through MLS.
You can put it on Zillow, but you can't put it in MLS as an open listing.
Okay.
Because
But you could-
there's no brokerage there.
Right, but you could put it on Zillow, True, and all this, okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean again, open listing, what does that mean?
Open listings like a for sale
Anybody
by
can
owner.
sell it,
Oh, yeah,
they're not.
yeah.
Those are gonna be open listings. And then down at the bottom, it says MLS. That sounds like it's a listing, but that's just a posting board. That's where you put the listings for other people to see them.
How secure is MLS right
Don't
now?
they have a rule too that you have to offer the buyer's agent like 2.5%
Mm-mm.
minimum?
Mm-mm.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Somebody
No.
told me that. I thought it was the MLS lady.
No.
They wouldn't put it in MLS.
No,
if
see,
it
that'd
was
be
less
price
than that.
fixing right there. Don't
Yeah.
wanna go there.
Well, are they pretty stable, stay in business?
MLS,
Mm-hmm.
just my opinion, the writing's on the wall.
That's what I figured.
But
Yeah, the writing's on the wall. The MLS, not the MLS, but the Association of Realtors, about a month ago, came out with a new rule on pocket listings. Y'all been seeing these coming soon?
Mhm.
Well, there are people that will have these listings and they won't put them on the market yet. They'll call their buyers that they know. Well, that's not serving your seller. You should serve your seller, put it out there on the open market, and let's get some offers on it, some bids, before you start calling your friends and say, hey, you can get it for 90.
Yeah.
But a lot of them will have coming soon and have an open house in 2 weeks or line up all of their appointments
Yeah.
for that day and get multiple offers, kind of like in a slight bidding war, and get asking price or more.
Well, that's.
I've
what-
seen it
that's
happen
what's behind
several
it.
times.
The
Interesting.
pressure, yeah, that's what it's
I
designed.
see a lot more coming soon, coming soon.
Mhm.
It's for sale or not, coming
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
For sale, yeah.
but I like that. And
That's interesting.
I like it. You know, everybody's seeing the sign for a couple of weeks, they're telling their neighbors and
When can we
telling
see
their
it?
friends.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then, well, it's gonna be on the market Saturday such and such.
you cannot show it until that date.
Right, but you got, well, one I'm talking about in particular had 10 people lined up to see it that day and got 4 offers.
Good. And
Well,
legally,
that's-
Interesting,
that's-
yeah.
that's
And that's the
philosophy behind it.
reason, and it was not a co-op. She had all the people lined up, she got both sides.
We got 15 minutes left. Well, dual agency, we talked about that earlier. That's where you had the listing, and then someone in your company has a buyer that wants to see that listing. Well, they're either gonna have to be transaction broker with them, which they shouldn't be. They got buyer's agency with them. Now we're gonna have to go to dual agency to do this deal. Our policy is here, when we take a listing, we have the dual agency form in there at the time and tell them, hey, this may happen. And if it does, here's how we have to deal with it. Oh goodness, I need to make that bigger.
I was like,
Goodness gracious. I have to turn around and read this all. Okay, failing to voluntarily furnish each listing contract at a reasonable promptness. You've got to get the paperwork to them. Don't wait till next week. You know, tomorrow it's okay, but next week is probably not. Failing to include a fixed date on your listing agreement, that's a violation. And when assisting the party in the real estate negotiation, present all offers in a timely fashion. That's like for sale coming soon. They can't take contracts yet either.
No, they can't show it, nothing.
Nothing.
All they do is set appointments.
But let's just say you've got a contract, somebody sent you a contract on that property. This says you've got to go ahead and present it.
Well, they're not supposed to
Not
have
supposed
seen
to.
it. No, they have not supposed to have seen it.
Yeah, but they'll
To
still
make
make
an
an
offer.
offer
Well,
on
they
it.
might make an offer sight
Yeah.
unseen.
Oh, I
Some
have it,
properties
yeah, I
they
have
do
it
for
many
sure.
times.
Yeah.
Not even that, but
Yeah.
I've had it where people come by and see that, and they go knock on the door and
Yeah.
talk to the
Yeah.
owner themselves and walk through and see it.
Yeah,
Did you
And
tell
then
me
they
a
go
time
ahead and
limit
try
on
to
it?
make an offer.
A time limit on
Before
it
it's
coming
listed.
soon, 21
yeah,
days
it's
or something?
21 days max.
Okay.
All right. These are just some of the clauses that are in the contract. We've already talked about Ernest and his money. This is a survey. It's a good idea for you to advise them to get a survey. Most of the time, they don't need one, but it's still, you're their agent, you're advising them. And once it's closed, the deal's closed, it doesn't matter where the fence is. It's on, you've got your fence on the neighbor's property, the neighbor can walk over the first day you move in and say, hey, do you know your fence is on my property? I want it moved. Well, you should have found that out before you went to closing and went to the seller and said, did you know the fence? Yeah, we knew it, but we did. They never said anything. Well, they're saying, now, let's fix it. Personal property, there's a whole form for that, an addendum that addresses each personal property. Closing possession, we talked about this already. Normally, the closing is going to be at possession. That's when you're going to give them the keys. But if it's not, it's got a couple of things down here where we can, so many days after closing. Financing, another contingency. What kind of financing? Because different financings have different costs and maybe potential problems for the seller. If you're going to have a FHA or VA financing on it, well, the appraiser, when he goes out there and he sees things that are wrong, well, he's going to list them and say the appraisal is not valid until these things are fixed. And you weren't planning on spending that money, but now this deal's not going to work until these things are fixed. Final walkthrough. Alabama is a buyer beware state. That means your buyer is responsible for checking the property in every way they want to check it. Now, they contracted on it a month ago. The seller had already moved out when they contracted on this house. Now, this is the middle of winter and temperatures are getting down to 0 degrees and the pipes freeze and burst. Uh-oh. You didn't do a walkthrough on your way to closing. And you're so happy your moving truck's gonna be here this afternoon, and when you get there, there's water standing about that deep. You should have done a walkthrough on your way to closing. Remember, they've been out for a month. Opie and his friends, after they get kicked out of Floyd's place, they went into this place and they spray painted the walls and punched holes in the walls and made a fire in the carpet. This is not the way you contracted. Stop right now. Don't go to closing, because you go into closing and close it. Now those are all your problems. That's why you do the walkthrough. Contingencies, financing inspections, those are going to be your big ones. Sometimes they got another house they need to sell. I hope you get the listing on that one too. Usually happens that way. They say, well, I got another one to sell. And you say, do you have an agent on that? And they said, no. Flood, this is something new y'all need to be aware of. They tell me the climate is changing and getting hotter and the oceans are rising. And places like Miami, 20 years from now, a lot of it is going to be uninhabitable. So if you have a property like here, we're up on the hill, we don't have a problem here. But you get down toward Highway 31, Cahaba River, the tributaries that go into that, the little streams like Patton Creek.
Patton Creek.
I had a house on Patton Creek, and one day the water came just right up to the back door. And it was probably 15 feet of flood.
So you had one off Colesbury.
Yeah, on Colesbury. Yeah. It just came right up to the back door. 5, 10, 20 years, 50 years from now, it'll be in the house. So check your floodplains. If you're in an area you suspect it, they're going to do a flood, what's it called, certification on it now. $25 for them to check that and make sure, because if it's in a flood zone, the mortgage company's not going to mortgage it unless you have flood insurance. Flood insurance, I thought was pretty cheap, but come to
It's
find
not.
out, it's not.
As high as it can be.
It used to be.
Yeah, it used, and let's just say you're talking about Baldwin County, you're down, say, within a mile of the Gulf, you're on maybe one of those rivers right down there. There's the Intercoastal Waterway.
Yeah,
You're between the Intercoastal Waterway and the Gulf. You're going to have not only hazard insurance, but you're going to have flood insurance and hurricane insurance. You may not be able to afford all the insurance on the property,
right.
but this is something that's coming. Seller disclosure in Alabama is not required. Many states, they require it. In fact, I think most of the states around us require it. It's a form. If I just tell you where to get the form on Real Estate Commission's website, this is what it looks like. It says, no, this is where you told your buyer, said, you really need to get a home inspection. And they said, I don't have the $400 to get it done. You really need to get a home inspection. Well, I just can't afford it. You really need to get a home inspection. And they said, no, I'm not going to get one. Then you get this form out and have them sign it. Because after they move in, they're going to find out all the things that the seller did not have to tell them about. The air conditioning system doesn't work. The combustion chamber's burned out in the heater. The roof leaks. The plumbing's messed up. Well, you should have got a home inspection. We had one about 6 months ago. The girl just absolutely, I'm not going to do it. She moved in. Next day she called my agent and said, what are you going to do about this, and this? The agent said, you remember that form I had you sign? Said, get a home inspection. You said, no, I don't want one. That's what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to say, get that form back out. Here's the home seller disclosure. It covers all these things. Have you had any problems with plumbing, electrical, floors, walls? It just lists all the different things. Now, once you're asked a direct question, you must answer truthfully.
Oh, Steve, back up a second. You said you had the buyer that called your agent.
Yeah, we had a buyer that would not sign, that didn't want an inspection.
So, but that says seller's property.
Oh,
Is
okay.
there a difference?
Yeah, well, I got, this is the first page there. I think a couple of pages down, we're going to get to that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sometimes I get ahead of myself.
So, yeah, I was just making sure I hadn't missed something.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing, talking about age. Older I get, the better I was. This has got
That's a good one.
all the things that you want to ask them about. Tell me about the roof.
But they're not required to do that?
Not required, but you send this, if the house, you think the house has got problems, you send this along with your offer. The offer is contingent on acceptable seller disclosure. Because they come back and it says, do you know about, yeah, I knew the roof was leaking, but I was hoping I wouldn't have to tell anybody. Because if you ask someone a direct question, does the roof leak, they must tell you the truth. If not, then we jumping back to fraud.
Okay, so one more time, if I have the buyer and I decide I want to ask the seller these particular things, I attach this with the offer?
Yes, and say the offer is contingent on acceptable seller disclosure
Okay.
form.
And if the seller, if you just said if they are asked, they have to disclose it? Or can they say, you know what,
They
never
can say, no, I don't want
mind?
to fill that out.
Okay, they can just back out on the offer. not-
They just need to get a home inspection. Surely to goodness, if
Right.
he's worth a darn, he'll find that.
Find a roof
Yeah.
leak and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but it's hard. Most of the time, I looked at one yesterday and they've got in red bold print, we cannot, it's a danger and hazardous for us to get up on the roof and we cannot and will not. You need a licensed roofer, you need a licensed heating and air company to come inspect the heating and air system. Systems were operable, but due to colder temperatures, we could not run and evaluate the air conditioning system. Advised to call license heating their
That's what the home
company.
inspector-
See, and that's
Oh, hell yeah, all
bull, you're
over
paying
the- You're
400
paying,
for
but that was
that,
all over,
and then they
page
want,
after page, I promise you.
then they want
He
the
says that every time
seller to
electrical plumbing,
pay
everything.
all
Not
those
like
professionals to come
50
check it out.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
wrong.
And that's what they're saying though, to get it off them.
Get off them.
Get them
Yeah.
money,
You gotta
them
get that
money, yeah.
monkey off of your
And that's what
back.
they're doing.
Put it
And
on them.
they'll take pictures, but it appears that, you know,
So who's gotta pay for all those professionals to come check it out?
The buyer.
The buyer.
The buyer.
As a
if they
rule, the
want-
person that
if
benefits
they want all of them
pays.
out there.
So that's our solar disclosure, and here it is. If they decide, I don't want it, then you're gonna get this form out. This is also on the Real Estate Commission's website. It's on our website too. We've got everything there. Just go in there, pull this one off, print it, and say, you said no, and after you move in, you're gonna sue me because you didn't want a home. This is gonna keep me out of court.
3601.
All right, that concludes our risk management 2. Got any questions, comments?
You did a good job.